Okay, so this is what we're going to be modeling. We're going to be modeling the planting pots, and I'm going to go through this a little bit quicker than I usually do, just because I think by this time, after having 7 or 8 videos behind you, you kind of know what you're doing. So let me show you some of the details in regard to putting this together. But when we start a drawing like this, when we start a part like this, you want to take a look at the drawing, kind of pick it apart, think about what your base feature might be. The base feature here might be like maybe the bottom of the pots down here. We're going to take these two rectangular, well, it would be squares up here, and actually extrude those so they kind of look like a pyramid in a way, truncated pyramid. And then we're going to put those into place. So we're going to do the bottom first, we're going to do the top second. So I call the bottom the base feature, and then top lip is going to be the second one. And this is going to be where the top plane is. So we're going to extrude this down. Top lip we're going to extrude up. And what sort of dimensions are we going to consider in order to put this together? So you look at your drawing and try to pick out what you need for that base feature. First thing that strikes out here is the 4-inch base height, which is going to be our extrude thickness. But you also want to take a look at the top view up here too. So we have a 4-inch square base. So we're going to consider that dimension. We have a 1-inch thickness over here for that bridge that goes between one square and the other. And then we have a 1/2-inch offset between the two squares for that. So we're going to consider all 4 of those dimensions when we put in our base feature. And our base feature are going to be these two squares. And if you think about this, we're going to try to maintain symmetry. So we're going to be putting this in on the top plane. Origin is going to be like right here in the middle. And this center line we're going to be putting in, it's going to be actually equivalent to the right plane. It's going to be right on top of the right plane. And this line, center line, which we're going to be sketching in too, is going to be equivalent to the front plane. So let's go ahead and get started. Our material is going to be PE high density, so let's go ahead and consider that. Let's put this aside and start from the very beginning. So you know how to create your template file. That's in video 13. So make sure you open up your inch template file for that. We're going to right-click on this. We're going to go to Edit Material. We're going to scroll down here to Plastics, and we're looking for PE high density. And go to Apply and then Close. So we're going to start with the top plane. We're going to go ahead and sketch a couple center lines. So we're going to try midpoint line in here. We're going to start from the origin, sketch that out. Make sure you maintain the horizontal and vertical sketch relations in here. And we're going to do the same thing over here for a vertical line. And now you see all of our sketch relations. You have, one vertical, one horizontal, a midpoint, a coincident, and another midpoint in there. And so we want to take these center lines, we wanted to make those into construction geometry. Remember, you always want to do that. You always want to keep your reference geometry, but you also want to make sure that they're not model lines or model arcs and circles. You want to make sure that it's construction geometry, construction lines. So we're going to select those with the Control key. You notice that they're light blue, so they're selected. And then we're going to go up here to this button up here, the shortcut menu, and make construction geometry out of that, or over here in the Properties Manager for construction there too. So we're going to sketch out a couple different squares. We're going to do center rectangle, sketch it out. We're going to exaggerate that a little bit. We're going to take 2 sides with the Control key to press. We're going to make those equal to each other, put 1 dimension on one side. We're going to make that 4 inches. So we're actually pretty close with that. Then we're going to put in a line over here and sketch that over to that side. And we're going to make that line per the drawing over here. We're going to make that line 1 inch wide, and it's going to be a 1/2 inch offset from that vertical center line. So you notice that some of this is black, which means that some of it's fully defined, the other ones aren't. So if we actually try to move this around, you notice that that black line cannot move up or down, but these vertical lines and these diagonals in here can. So as we continue to work on our model and define this a little bit better, we're going to get that defined too. So let's take this line, we're going to go and mirror that down. So we're going to select that line and go up here to Mirror Entities. That puts that down here, and now we have that dimension that we're going to put in that, which is going to be 1 inch. So we're going to click on that line and that line. It's got symmetry to it. So if we put 1 inch on that, now it becomes fully defined. Let's go ahead and trim some of this out. We're going to go to the Trim tool again on the Sketch tab in the Command Manager. We're going to trim this guy out, then this guy out, so that it's open geometry, but it's all chained and connected, so we don't have that extra geometry in here that we don't really need. Let's go back to Smart Dimension. We're going to dimension between that vertical line and that center line, and we're going to drop that out. If we put it on this side, that dimension, as we talked about in class, is going to be a dimension. But if you put it on this side, it's going to be a double dimension. So we're going to go ahead and put that over there, and the value there is going to be a 1/2 inch. So now you notice that everything is fully defined. Everything's black and it's fully defined. That's a test question. Blue line means, or blue endpoint means it's not fully defined. But now that it's fully defined, we can move on to the next step. So we're going to mirror this over. And we're going to take everything in here. We're going to do a selection box, select everything there, and select our vertical center line and go up here to mirror entities. We're going to mirror it over to the other side. It didn't recognize that because we picked more than one center line in here, so we're going to have to go back down here in the Properties Manager, click inside of that selection box, make that light blue, and we're going to click on that for our mirror line. You'll see a yellow preview in here too, which means we're going to get that. We're going to get everything we wanted for Christmas. So we're going to go to the green check mark, and now we have that in there. So now we have our square on one side, square on the other side. We have continuous geometry, and it's all connected here in the middle. And as mentioned, the origin is there in the middle there too. So now we can do our extrude. So that's in the top plane. We're going to extrude this down by, that's right, we're going to extrude it down by 4 inches. So we're going to go to Features, Extrude Boss Space. We're going to make sure we're going in the right direction. And you can't really tell with the yellow preview in there, but if you type in 4, yeah, now you can see we're going in the wrong direction. So we're going to change the direction on that, and we're going to put a draft angle in there. That's something we didn't look at in the drawing before, but let's go ahead and take a look at that. We can see both of our draft angles that we're going to need. For the bottom portion of the draft angle, it's going to be 5 degrees. So we're going to type in 5 over here, and if it looks like it's going to resolve itself correctly, which it does, it's going to taper out like a truncated pyramid. We're going to go to the green check mark. So now is a good time to check our mass properties. Let's go ahead and go to Evaluate, Mass Properties, and you might want to change this a little bit, but we want to have 3 units after the decimal. So go over here to Options, use Custom Settings. We're going to increase that by 1 unit to make sure it's 3 after the decimal. Take your toggle, slide it all the way over to the right, go to the green check mark, and now we have 3.747 pounds. As I mentioned in class, it's a pretty heavy piece of plastic. And then the Y direction is 1.873. So let's see if we have that right, if that matches the drawing, which it does, as you can see in note number 1 in our sheet notes section. So let's go ahead and close that out. Let's go ahead and do that top portion. What we can do, there's a couple of different ways we could do it. We can go ahead and click on this, go to Sketch tab, go to Sketch and Convert Entities. It just borrows the geometry that's already there. And now we have a new sketch relation in here called On Edge. If you rush your cursor over that, you can see what that does. But as an alternative to that, if we rebuild this, it takes that sketch right out of there. We can go ahead and borrow that sketch in here. So our boss extrude, let's go ahead and rename that. That's always a good idea to do that. We're going to call this our base feature. So now we're going to borrow the sketch from the base feature. We're going to take our sketch 1 and just borrow it. Just click on it. Go to Features, Extrude a boss space. We're going to extrude that up. This gets extruded up according to our drawing of 1.5 inches, so we're going to type in 1.5. This 2 also has a draft angle in it, so we're going to go ahead and click on Draft. And it's set at 5 by default because that's what we used last time, but this one's going to be 3. And you notice it kind of comes in rather than goes out. So we want to go ahead and reverse that draft in order to keep the perception of the truncated pyramid in there. And to think about plastic injection molding, you do want to have a draft angle in there so it actually drops really easily out of the mold. And it does that with a draft angle. That's why it's there. So we're going to go to the green check mark. And now we have that in place. So this one's going to be called our top lip. So very carefully type in there, type in top lip. So now we have that in place. I think the next thing we need to do is make our cut. Now, I demonstrated this in class, how we could do this the wrong way. But let's go ahead and select the surface the wrong way. And let me show you why we can't use the surface, because it's wrong. But if you click on that surface, go to Sketch, go to the Sketch button over here. That's it. We have to do that, do Convert Entities. We're going to convert those entities, and there's that on-edge relationship again. What we want to do is we want to take this item up here, that on-edge relationship, grab that line and pull that down. So now we've broken that relationship up there, and now that line is blue. And we'll talk about why it was a black line before and why it's a blue line now. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But let's go ahead and put a dimension in there of 2.5. Now we're going to extrude it. Extrude cut. So we're going to go to Features, Extrude a cut. Let's go to Through Wall. And before we complete this, let's look at that at the side and see if that's really what we want to do. So it really doesn't work quite that way. It's going to have a little piece of pie in the bottom, and that's really not quite what we want to do. So how would we correct that? What we should have done is instead of selecting that angular face over here, we should have selected the front plane. And we could still do that. So if you got this wrong, let's go to the green check mark in here. You got this little piece of something in there, and then you got that weird triangle. That's going to be a really hard thing to resolve. Let's do this. After we rename this, which is going to be our connector cut, let's go ahead and go open up that sketch. We're going to open this up. We're going to right-click in that sketch, and we're going to go into the Edit Sketch Plane. So that's the second option in here. We're going to go to Edit Sketch Plane. And instead of Face 1 that we have in here, now we're going to go to Front Plane and go to the green check mark. And now let's look at what we did. So now it cut it, but it only cut it on one side. So let's do this. Let's go back into that feature, right-click in the feature, Edit Feature, and this time we're going to do Through All Both. So conceivably, you could have just started on the front plane and had done that correctly from the very beginning. I demonstrated that in class a little bit, showed you how to do that, but that's one way to correct it, is if you just go ahead and select the correct sketch plane. So let's go to the green check mark. It probably is a good idea right now to check our features, our mass properties. So if we go to Evaluate, Mass Properties, 5.445, 5.445 over here in our drawing, and the Y is going to be off by, looks like a negative 1.026. And see if we got that. We do indeed. So we're on track. That's why you do this. You put your model together, you go through all the steps, and you validate your model by checking the mass properties. And if you got the mass properties correct, then you're sitting pretty good. So next thing we want to do is we want to put in our edge fillets. There are a lot of fillet edges in here. We have that edge, that edge, that edge, all these edges on the bottom, all these edges on the side, on both sides, here in the middle. It's going to be difficult to select everything, but to initiate this, it's actually pretty easy. If you go up here to Features, go up here to Fillet, and if you look at a drawing, it might be a little bit hidden over here, but we're looking at this item over here, this dimension over here. It's going to be 1/8 of an inch, 0.125 for all edges but the top, all edges except for the top. So one way to do this is we could just select everything. You can get a pick box or a selection box, as SolidWorks calls it. Pick box, I think, is what AutoCAD calls it. Just select everything. It should give you a preview. If you're not seeing a preview, make sure you have the radio button over here for full preview selected. Another way of doing that, if you just go back to Fillet, I just X that out. We could do a Control-A, so this selection box is open for items to fillet. It's looking for us to make a selection out here in our graphics area. But if you do Control-A, it's going to select everything there too. So whatever is easier for you. But once you have everything selected, now it's a little bit easier of a task to deselect things. Every time you select something in SolidWorks, if you select it a second time, it takes it out of the selection. So we're going to go around the top and deselect everything, all the edges on the top that we don't want. So I'll go ahead and select that, this guy. We're going to select that line over here and do the same thing on this side. We're going to select that, and then this guy over here, and then we have one last one on this side. As I was still getting our preview, we should be in pretty good shape. So let's go to the green check mark. Oh, let's make sure we have the right value in here. 1/8 of an inch, 0.125. Go to the green check mark. Now we have that in place. So let's go into Evaluate, Mass Properties, and let's see what we have in here. So we have a mass of 5.439. Let's bring our drawing back in. Here it says our mass should be 5.439, and it's off in the X direction by a negative 1.024, which is what we have here. So why is it a negative value? Well, it's a negative value because if you look down here at the triad, positive Y is going up, but if you consider where the origin is, which is going to be right here, still the bulk, you can see this by the preview that you see for the center of mass in here, that pink icon in here, that is still below where the origin is. So if you look at the triad over here, the negative part of the Y, which is invisible, is going to be negative, and that's why it's negative. So let's go ahead and X that out. Let's go ahead and shell this. Again, go back to our drawings. What are we looking for the shell thickness? 1/10 of an inch. Shows that over here in our front view. So let's go ahead and incorporate that. So Features, Shell, select that top face. 1/10 of an inch is there by default. Don't have to do much more. Go to the green check mark. Now we have that in place. So let's check our mass properties again. So Evaluate, Mass Properties. Density, or the mass now here is 0.609, and let's see if that matches what we have over here in our drawing. and it does. And then a negative 1.458. So the mass, the weight of this actually reduces itself by quite a bit. And then negative 1.458 is what we have there too. Okay, so now we need to put in the bottom holes. So we're going to put the bottom holes in reference to the bottom face down here. So there's a lot of sketching that kind of goes along with this. So we're going to go ahead and select that face. We're going to go to sketch. We're going to put in our center lines again. So we're going to do midpoint line. We're going to sketch that across. Remember, Control 8 will make that normal too. It's probably a good idea to do that. When you put in your center lines in here, you want to make sure that they're not model lines. So we're going to convert that to construction geometry. It might take a few moments to do it. You also want to make sure that you maintain the vertical and horizontal relationships that in there too. If your line goes off at an angle like that, maybe you didn't quite get it vertical. If it's something like that, all you have to do is click on that line. It gives you an opportunity to apply that vertical relationship. And once that's in place, now we can put in our circles. But one thing you want to do too, we want to put in one more center line. And we're going to do that from the midpoint of that edge and bring that down. So that way when we put in our circles in here, we're going to take this circle over here and mirror it down here, and then take these two circles and mirror it over here. And we're going to take all four of these circles and mirror them over to this side. So we maintain symmetry the whole way through. So let's do this. We're going to put in a circle. We're going to go ahead and grab that here. You know that fillet looks really small. Let's come back to that drawing and let's see if we can fix that fillet. So let's right-click on it. I think it's supposed to be 1/8 of an inch. I think it's still maintained. Yeah, well, it says 1/8 of an inch too, so I think we're okay. Our mass properties worked out, so I think we're okay. But this gives me an opportunity here, now that we exited the sketch, to see what we're doing here. Because all of a sudden, we have these sketch elements that are gray and they're not blue like we're used to seeing. They're blue or black. So like, what is that all about? What that's all about is because it's over here and that sketch is embedded into our feature manager. And how do we get there? Well, you right-click on that sketch, you tell it to edit sketch, or you can double-click on any of these sketch elements, and it comes right back. You notice that it's blue over here, which means it's visible, and if we rebuild that again without doing a feature next to it, a sketch is still visible in a feature manager tree. So this symbol over here, the blue symbol over here, is a little bit different from this very thin line gray symbol or black symbol over here. When it's blue, it's going to show. When it has colors, it's going to show. So right-click over here, we're going to go to Edit Sketch. Let's go ahead and put our dimensions on this. So if you look at our drawing again, we're going to be looking at our top view down here. We have a 3/4 inch offset from the edge, the outer edge of the fillet. On the bottom and then on the sides, it's got to be 1/2 inch. And then the hole itself is going to be 0.3 inches. So let's go ahead and put our dimensions in. This is going to be 0.3. We're going to put a smart dimension on that. Let's try that again. So 0.3 there. 3/4 of an inch from that edge, from the outside fillet edge, 0.375. And then this one is going to be 0.5. Bang, that's black, it's fully defined. So now we're going to mirror that. So we're going to take that circle, escape a couple times, gets us out of that smart dimension. We're going to select that circle. This line, actually this line over here with the control key, we're going to mirror that. Take these two circles and that line, we're going to mirror that over there. And take all four of these in this line, mirror it over to the other side, and now we're ready to go. So now let's do the extrude cut. We want to make sure we're going to go off in the right direction. We want to make sure we extrude that up. So features, extruded cut, through wall, green check mark. And now we have that in place. So let's go and double check our mass properties. Evaluate mass properties. The very end mass property should be 0.607. Let's make sure we have that right. This is 0.607, and it should be off in a y direction by a -1 inch, 0.450 inches. So let's see. Yep, y direction. That's what we have. So that's how you do it. That's how you create this model as an extension for our week 1 WDE. That is our planning pot.